In the early 1970s, British rock music was beginning to change. The psychedelic haze of the late 60s was fading, and many bands were moving towards heavier, more serious sounds. Progressive rock was becoming increasingly complex, and hard rock was growing louder and more aggressive. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, a different kind of star appeared. He wore satin and glitter, his curls framed a mischievous smile, and when he stepped onto the stage, he looked less like a traditional rock musician and more like something from another world. His name? Marc Bolan. And with his band, T.Rex, he helped ignite a cultural movement that would soon be known as glam rock. But long before the glitter and teenage hysteria, Marc Bolan was simply a boy from London with an imagination far bigger than the streets he grew up on. This is the boy in the top hat, Marc Bolan, T.Rex, and the birth of glam rock. Marc Bolan was born Mark Feld on September 30th, 1947, in Hackney, East London. From an early age, he seemed drawn to the world of style and performance. While other children were content listening to pop records, Bolan became fascinated with fashion, poetry, and the theatrical side of music. By his early teens, he had already immersed himself in London's mod culture, working briefly as a fashion model and appearing in the magazines that celebrated the bold, colourful look of the 1960s youth movement. Music, however, remained his true obsession. Inspired by artists like Bob Dylan and the growing British folk scene, Bolan began writing his own songs. Strange, whimsical pieces filled with imagery about wizards, mythical creatures, and cosmic landscapes. In 1967, that fascination with the fantasy would lead him to form a band that sounded unlike anything else in British rock at the time. Alongside percussionist Steve Peregrine-Took, Bolan formed a psychedelic folk duo called Tyrannosaurus Rex. Their sound was unusual, even by the experimental standards of the late 1960s. Rather than electric guitars and drums, Tyrannosaurus Rex relied on acoustic instruments, bongos, and Bolan's distinctive voice. Their songs were filled with surreal lyrics and mystical imagery, often sounding like fragments of strange fairy tales set to music. Albums like My People Were Fair and had sky in their hair, but now they're content to wear stars on their brows, gained a cult following in Britain's underground music scene. The band was championed by influential BBC radio host John Peel, who invited them to record several sessions for his programme. But despite their growing reputation, Bolan began to feel acoustic format was limiting his ambitions. And by the end of the decade, he was ready to reinvent both himself and his music. In 1969, Bolan shortened the band's name from Tyrannosaurus Rex to the far simpler T.Rex. The change signalled more than just a new name. It marked the beginning of a dramatic transformation. Electric guitars replaced acoustic strumming, and the music became heavier, louder, and more rhythmic. The shift was fully realised with the 1971 album Electric Warrior. The record would change everything. With its blend of swaggering guitar riffs, hypnotic grooves, and Bolan's playful charisma, Electric Warrior introduced a sound that felt both futuristic and primal. One song in particular captured the moment perfectly. Get It On. Known in the United States as Bang a Gong, it became an international hit and turned Marc Bolan into a bona fide rock star. Almost overnight, Britain fell under the spell of what the press began calling T-Rextasy. Teenagers screamed at concerts, fan magazines exploded with Bolan's image, and glitter suddenly began appearing on television screens across the country. Marc Bolan didn't just sound different, he looked different too. During a performance on the BBC programme Top of the Pops in 1971, he appeared wearing a glitter beneath his eyes. It was a small visual detail, but it became one of the defining images of a new movement in rock music. Soon, other artists began exploring similar styles. Performers like David Bowie, Roxy Music, and Sweet would help expand what became known as glam rock, a genre that blended theatrical imagery, flamboyant fashion, and infectious rock and roll. But at the centre of that explosion was Marc Bolan. With songs like Jeepster and Telegram Sam, T.Rex dominated the British charts during the early 1970s. Their music was simple, catchy and irresistible, built on driving rhythms and Bolan's distinctive lyrical style, which often felt playful, mysterious and slightly surreal. For the few extraordinary years, Marc Bolan was one of the biggest stars in British music. As glam rock exploded across Britain, comparisons between Marc Bolan and David Bowie became inevitable. Both artists embraced theatrical imagery and androgynous fashion, and both understood that rock music could be as much about performance as its sound. But their careers would follow very different paths. While Bowie consistently reinvented his identity through characters like Ziggy Stardust, Bolan remained more closely tied to the magical persona he had developed during the early T.Rex years. By the mid-1970s, music tastes were beginning to shift once again. Progressive rock had grown increasingly elaborate, and new genres were starting to emerge. T.Rex still produced strong material, including songs like Children of the Revolution, but the chart dominance of the early 70s was beginning to fade. Bolan understood that he needed to adapt.
And the hardest thing about being successful is remaining successful, and I've been very fortunate in that way. And I can thank the fans in Australia for that, for still sticking with me, and people in England. Because as you know, I've been away for 2 years from England for tax reasons, tax exile. As everyone else, Elton and Rod, all these people have gone now, you see. But it enabled me to go away and really just sort of cool the situation. Because as we spoke about, I thought I was being overexposed a little bit, along with that Donny and David and all that teeny bop thing, which is cool. I mean, I love being screamed at and ripped apart, but as long as people listen to the music as well, So it's given me kind of a fresh thing now. I've come back now, and fortunately New York City was a big hit. I don't know, is it coming out in Australia? I don't know if it's been released there yet.
No.
Well, it'll be out soon at that one. And in fact, over here I've got a new one this week called Dreamy Lady, which comes out. So everything is really going very well. Couldn't be better at the moment.
Well, when you started climbing to the top, was it the music?
Clawing.
Was it the music, or was it the glamour? What was the main attraction for you?
For me, music at first. But I think it's inseparable. I mean, when I was about 9, I wanted to be Elvis, And then it was Marlon Brando. And then eventually it became Marc Bolan. I wanted to be, because I invented him that way.
Rather than disappear from the spotlight, Marc Bolan began exploring new ideas. By 1977, he had launched a television programme called Marc, which featured performances from emerging artists as well as Bolan himself. The show reflected his continuing passion for music and his ability to recognise talent in others. One memorable moment from the programme came when Bolan performed alongside David Bowie, a reunion that symbolised the shared influence both artists had on glam rock's legacy. For many fans, it seemed like the beginning of a new chapter, but fate had other plans. On the evening of September 16th, 1977, Marc Bolan was travelling through southwest London in a car driven by his partner, Gloria Jones. Just 2 weeks before his 30th birthday, the car crashed into a tree. Bolan was killed instantly. The news sent shockwaves through the music world. He was only 29 years old. In the years that followed, Bolan's influence would become even clearer. The glittering energy of glam rock had inspired countless musicians, and the visual style he helped popularise would continue shaping pop culture for decades. Artists from punk to new wave, from alternative rock to modern pop, would borrow elements of the flamboyant, theatrical spirit Bolan brought to the stage. Today, Marc Bolan is remembered as one of the pioneers of glam rock. His work with T.Rex helped redefine what a rock star could look like, sound like, and represent. At a time when rock music was becoming increasingly serious, Bolan reintroduced a sense of fantasy, style and fun. And perhaps that's why his story still resonates. Because Marc Bolan didn't just perform songs, he created a world, one filled with glitter, rhythm, imagination and just a hint of magic. Marc Bolan once said that he wanted to be remembered as someone who brought joy to people through his music. Looking back now, it's hard to argue that he didn't succeed. For a brief moment in the early 1970s, the world seemed to sparkle just a little bit brighter, and at the centre of it all was a man with a guitar and a head full of dreams. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this insight into one of the true pioneers of glam rock, Marc Bolan. Hit like and subscribe to see more content like this, and comment who you'd like to see next. This has been Signals of Sound, tuning out.